Welcome to the second session of this training program. So, in this week, we are going to focus on the data structures, the control structures, and few libraries used in data science. Those are going to be NumPy and Pandas. Also, we are going to explore a bit of statistics by using Python. So, let's start with data structures in Python. Now, what is a data structure? It's basically a way of storing data. It's logical or mathematical more than saying it or calling it a bit of programming model. Always remember, a data structure is how you try to store the data logically or mathematically rather than storing it actually in the memory. The method of storing a data structure inside a memory may be distinct from the way you visualize a data structure to be. Now, I hope you have some prior programming knowledge and you know a few data structures such as arrays, stacks, queues, linked lists, etc. Similarly, in Python, some basic data structures are lists, tuples, sets, and dictionaries. So let's see what are lists. A list is basically a collection of arbitrary objects. An arbitrary object is basically an object of any data type. So in a list, there can be any type of data, or rather say there can be different data types, different elements of different data types. So to create a list, use a squared bracket. Now I'm creating a list B with two floating point values and a string using this square bracket. Let's see. Now you can see the list is printed, and I've even printed the type of the list I've just created. Now let's see what are the properties of a list. A list is ordered. That is, if you try to change the order of a list, it gets changed. Or rather say, if you have two lists with same elements but different orders, they are not similar. Let's see. Here is X with A, B and C as elements, and Y as well with the same elements and in the same order. If we try to compare these lists, it returns true. Now, if we just try to change the order of the second list, let's see, and we get the output as false. So this is an important property perspective of a list. The next property is a list is mutable. That is, they can be changed. Let's see, let's try to create another list over here having the names of colleges. So it has the names of 4 colleges, and the fifth element is a numerical value, or rather say an int value of 2. So what does mutable mean is that you can mutate. That is, you can change a value inside a list, or rather say you can assign a new value to a particular index inside a list. So indexing is a basic concept used in list as you use indexing in an array. You can access any element using an index. In Python as well, the indexes start from 0, and let's try to reassign the 4th index with a string value, and let's print the list, and you can see the list is mutated. Going on to next property, that is a list is dynamic. That is, a list can grow as the items are added to the list. So if you know the concept of an array, a static array, an array's size can't grow. That is, you can't append more elements into array directly. For that, you have to create another static array of larger size and then allocate values. Or even if you think about a dynamic array, you have to use the concept of pointers and addresses to figure it out, which makes it really hard. So the Python lists are dynamic and you can actually see them growing. You can actually append new values to them. So here I'm creating a Z list with two great characters of Marvel, and you can see the list is created. Now there's another concept called as slicing. Here you can see 2 and colon. What it means is slicing. So slicing is a basic methodology to access only certain elements from a list or even any other data structure. So it has three main parameters divided by two colons. So first parameter is the initial index from where you want to access the elements. The second parameter is the ending index or the last index before which you want to access the elements. Remember this, before which and not until. The third parameter is the step parameter, wherein if you specify certain number of steps, you will get the elements by skipping that number of steps in between from starting to the ending index. Let's try to demonstrate it a bit. Now first of all, we have this list Z as containing 4 values after I assigned, or rather say I dynamically added 2 more elements to the list using the slicing methodology. Now let's try to see how slicing works. If I try to access elements before the 4th element here, that is Thor, so these 3 strings will be returned, and you can see only these 3 strings are returned. This is the ending index. Now if I specify the initial or starting index, let's say 1, so in this case there will be 3 elements accessed from here. The first element will be skipped, that is 0 index, and you can see those are accessed as well. What if we have to step or skip one element in between? Let's try to do that as well. Let's start from this first index, that is Captain America, and what if we have to access just Captain America and Thor as values? So we simply do that by specifying the initial index, that is 1, then we specify nothing in the ending index when we don't have any constraints, so it will by default consider all elements ahead. Or even if you just don't specify the initial index, it will consider by default the 0th index. Now I'm providing the third parameter over here, that is 2. Now I'll be stepping 2, that means I'll be skipping 1. What if I specify 1 over here? I'm getting these 3 elements, that is 1, 1, so 1 stepped. If I specify 2, I'm getting these 2 elements. Now there's one interesting feature as well in the indexing, or rather say slicing, that is accessing elements in reverse order. You can do that by just specifying the negative steps. So if I specify -1 over here, I'll be accessing the list Z in the negative order, or I can even do stepping over here and I can access 1 and 2. Okay, moving on to next property, that is lists are or can be nested. So as I said earlier, the list can have any kind of data type, and for very important information, a list can have any kind of data type means a list can have even lists or even the tuples, dictionaries, sets we are going to see ahead. So I'm trying to create a list over here which has several lists inside it, or say sub lists inside it. Now it has the first element as string, that here is languages, then its second element is a list itself, which consists of two strings and another list which consists of one element. Similarly, I'm trying to create another list on the index 2 for the main list X. Now inside this list I have two elements. So first element is string and the second element is a list itself, which again consists of one string and one list, and so on. Now to access this, you can again use the method of indexing. Just to know, since we are trying to use multiple lists inside a list, we can access those by similarly using the indexing method, or rather say multiple indexing method. So if I have to access Golang as a string, I'll be specifying these indexes. So x of 1, that is this list, then this second index I'm specifying here is 2, that is 0 1 2. Again, this is again one list. Now since it consists only of one element, I can specify the next index as 0, and then string index out of range, that's an error. Let's try to verify this. X of 1 is B. Did we create this string? No. So that's somewhere we went wrong. Okay, now you can see x of 1 is this list itself. Now if I have to access this list, I can specify the next index as 2, 0 1 2, and then 0, that is the index inside this sub list, and then yes, I can access Golang. Similarly, we can do for the other list. Here this indexing accesses SQL as a string value. You can see it does. So nested lists are of utter importance as we move on ahead, as to access data sometimes it gets really complex, so you should know this. Now let's try to see what are the methods used in list. There's .append method, which is used to append new values to an existing list. We can do that using concatenation operator as well, that is addition operator. So we can simply specify list is equal to list plus another list consisting of your values. That can be done again using the .append method, wherein you don't have to create another string having the different values, because the addition operator only supports addition of two lists or similar data types, while you can use append method to insert, or as I say, to append multiple values directly by specifying them and without creating a list. So a bit less use of memory if you use append. And you can see these are two lists actually. There's distractions having 3 values, and then I'm concatenating the fourth value Instagram into that, and then again there's another list with two values. Then I'm trying to print concatenation of those two, and you can see all 6 values are printed over here. While if I just append one single string into the original list, I can directly append that string by specifying its value without creating another list for that. So it's basically memory saving a bit. The next method is using clear. So dot clear method basically clears your list. So if I'm creating a list A with some elements, and if I use a dot clear, you can see the list becomes empty. So that's it. Then there's copy method. What copy method does is it creates a list as a copy of another list. It doesn't. Okay, now here's a confusing part often. Now let's try to first print it. You can see B is a copy of the distractions list we have created above. There's another way of doing this, that is B is equal to distractions directly. Now why not to use this is because as you do this, B is referenced to the list distractions. So if you change distractions list, the impact won't be the impact would be on B as well. Or if you try to change B, the impact would be on distractions as well. That is, if you try to change one list, the other list will also get changed. It's basically referenced, so it will ultimately change. So always be sure to use copy operator so as to get another different list wherein you can perform different operations and you can keep your existing list as it is before. The next method is count method. We have created one list having 0, 1, 2 and 3 elements with multiple frequencies. Now let's try to use the dot count method. In dot count method, you just have to specify the element you have to count inside a list. So C is the name of list, dot count method and 3. You can see there are 4 3s inside this list C. You can even count several string values if they exist inside a list or even a list. So there's no constraint to what kind of data type you are counting as well. That's the best advantage of using list. Now you can also use index method. That is, you can try to find out the index of your element situated inside the list. So here I had a list B having a value Twitter somewhere, and I can get its index by just specifying dot index and the value I want the index of. And there's sort method as well, wherein I can sort a list having some values by using the dot sort method and just get it sorted, and you can see it's so easy. And then there's insert method, wherein you can insert an element at a certain index by specifying it. So there's this list sum dot insert, then you have to specify the first parameter as the index of the position wherein you want to insert your element, then specify the element and you will get the job done. You can see I have inserted 11,000 at index 6. There are only 6 elements, so till 5 index, and at 6 index it's inserted. Okay, now then there's also pop method, that is basically deleting a value. So as you specify the index of the value you want to delete inside a list and use the dot pop method, you'll see the value is deleted, and as soon as you use the .pop method, it returns the value. So you can even store that value inside some variable. Okay, now these methods are essential if you try to see with programming and algorithmic perspective. It's so easy. Let's see. Now we know that we are not able to dynamically allocate elements inside an array or even any data structure so easily, while in Python you can do it that easily just by using the .append method or using the concatenation operator. Then you can even create another list by using .copy directly. You can count. So to count number of elements inside an array, you have to use a for loop or conditional checkings, while in Python just use this one method and you're done. Then you can even use searching. So what is index method actually doing? It's searching. If you know searching algorithms, it just returns the index and the value you want to find inside that data structure. So by specifying dot index value, I'm just searching for that particular value inside the data structure, and it returns me the index so easily. You don't have to use so many for loops and go for so much complexity checking and all. And even the sorting methods, if you are aware of sorting methods in programming, you will know it's so tough to maintain the time complexity. But in Python, these functions are behind the scene implemented with best algorithms. So you can read even the algorithms in the documentation provided. You can read those functions wherein you can read the algorithm, how they are processing. So what I mean is these methods make it really easy, and that's what we need in the data science. We can't actually go out and implement so many functions using so many algorithms and do nothing ahead. It takes a lot of time, and do the next processing parts, it's really complicated. It gets complicated. Now there is another data structure known as tuple. It's really simple data structure. It is a list with two rules. First is using round brackets instead of square bracket. Then the second rule is they are immutable. That is, you cannot change them. That's all. Everything is same as in list, just that you cannot change them at all. So if I try to create a tuple singers having 4 strings having the names of some legendary singers, we can access the values in tuple using the indexing method. Similarly, you can do that, but you cannot mutate, that is, you cannot change. You can see there's an error. Tuple object does not support item assignment, that is, you can't mutate. And yes, unfortunately, this guy, I guess, doesn't belong to this tuple of legendary singers, I guess. Okay, the next concept. Now indexing and slicing, I've explained you. I hope you understand it. You can just preview how to use it. I've included in this notebook. You can play with it a bit more. Then the next data structure is set. A set is an ordered collection with no duplicate elements. This is basically a mathematical description or definition of a set. It's same in Python as in mathematics. So a set can't contain duplicate elements. Now to create a set, you have to use curly brackets. So let's create two sets, fruits and fruits1, with these values. If you observe, there's one element common in both, that is orange. Now let's try to perform 3 basic operations with these sets. So there's union. You can use just this ORing operator if you have used in bitwise or some. uh, Here in sets, this means union of two sets, and you can see there's the union of two sets written. Then you can also find differences, that is, if you see apple and orange both are common in both lists, so you get only pineapple as an output since these are subtracted. Or rather say, difference consists of removing the common elements in sets. And there's also symmetric union, wherein you just ignore the values which are common in both lists and only specify the values which are unique. And that's all for now. You can explore more about sets, but in particular for now we don't need them. Now the next data structure that is very important for data science is a dictionary. A dictionary is basically is a set of key value pairs with the requirement that the keys are unique. So a dictionary consists of a key and a value associated to each other. The keys have to be unique in any way, everywhere, while values can be similar or different, anything. Now keys can also be string values, not just integers, just to remember. Okay, now to create dictionaries we again use curly brackets. Don't confuse it with sets. Over here we create a key to value pair, so here's 1 as key, then there's value CAC, then there's 2, there's ME, and so on. Now to access the elements of the dictionary we again use indexing method, you can see, but don't confuse it with indexing method. Why? Because we are actually basically trying to access an element based on its key value. So 1 over here is its key. Okay, always remember that. Also the keys can be unordered as well. All you need is unique keys. So after 1, 2, 3, you can directly specify 100 as a key and associate an value. So basically what I mean is don't confuse it with indexes. Next, we can allocate a new value, assign a new value by directly specifying the index and specifying the value. Okay, again I said index here. This is key. Always remember that. This is a bit of confusion when you try to use dictionaries extensively. That's why I'm specifying it particularly. It's sometimes critical and sometimes you spin your head because you don't get right results just because of this small mistake. And I'm trying to allocate a key 4 with the value ENTC, and let's check on our dictionary, and you can see a new value is assigned, and we can create more like that. And as I said before, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, so there's not indexing here, there's keys. Now to check if a value exists in the values of the dictionary, you have to simply use dot values method. So what this a dot values returns is, let's try to show you a dot values, and you can see it basically returns the values of the dictionary in. And remember, it's a tuple, no, it's a list. Okay, it's a list of values consisted inside a dictionary, and you can check for a particular value by just using in operator. In operator basically is used to search a value inside any data structure, and you get the result returned as true or false. If it's present, it's true. If it's not, if it's false, right? And you can see there's no bio in these values, so it returns false. And you can do it similarly. Now also, to check on keys, you don't have to specify a dot values or a dot index, anything like that. You just have to write 3 in a. If 3 is in a's key values, it will return true. So you don't have to specify again dot keys or dot index, anything. You have to use a for keys, a dot values for values. You can see 3 is present, so it returned true. And also, don't confuse in operator over here. In operator can be used for any data structure, even for lists, tuples, sets. What it basically means is, if a value is present in a certain data structure, it will return true. If it's not, it will return false. Now I've tried to demonstrate with list as well. So there is a list of some elements, and you can even check in list if it's present, and it will return true or false. So always remember the basic data structures: lists, tuples, sets, and dictionaries. Also, don't forget to use right brackets for right data structures. Thank you.